everybody?
It is indeed, yes.
And thanks for the presentation that you've forwarded. It's on the Hub members, and we've got it before us on the screens as well. In your hands, Chris.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, committee.
Good morning.
My name is Chris Crichton, and I work in the technology delivery team at Auckland Transport. This is a great opportunity for me to give awareness to this committee of the work that Auckland Transport is doing in the intelligent transport space. I want to start off with a definition around what intelligent transport solutions are. So it enables users to be better informed and make safer, more coordinated and smarter use of the transport network. That's how Auckland Transport defines intelligent transport solutions. We're actually operating in 3 areas in this regard. So traffic management and disruption, so real-time situation awareness of what's happening on the network and communicating disruption to our customers. Traffic optimization, so examples of this include special lanes and use of historic data to predict the future. And safety, so a huge focus for Auckland Transport is event and incident management, and also a big focus on road user and pedestrian safety. Let me take you through some of the examples in the safety area. I do want to say that I do have a number of examples, but I'll quickly go through them so not to take up much of your time. I will be able, hopefully, if the technology permits, to show you some videos of this as examples as well. So on the screen here is, this is rail level crossings. So on the left-hand side there, what you can see is people going through a pedestrian crossing at a railway line when the lights are flashing red.
Whoa.
So that is during a particular time period of a day, the 30th of April and the 1st of May, and there's a number of people going through that crossing when they shouldn't be. It's flashing red and a train is approaching. Kiwi Rail would treat that as a near miss. This is Glen Innes.
Does that include the vehicles when you say people?
Yep, so the second one on the right is the vehicle. So what you see there is an Auckland Transport vehicle testing that it works. So that vehicle is deliberately stopped there in that
I'm glad
road.
you said that.
Deliberately stopped there so we can test the technology.
Good to clarify that.
So how Auckland, I'm sorry, I'm moving forward. I don't want to go forward. Let me go back. How Auckland Transport uses that data is, we'll go out to those locations and ask people, why are you crossing the railway line when you're told, when you're advised not to by the. And the second thing is around business cases for actually gating those crossings. If there's a high frequency of people crossing those crossings, we need to do stuff around it. I'm moving on to my second example around safety, and this is special lane enforcement. And
Rather difficult situation.
What you see here is a car blocking a cycleway, and very shortly you'll see that the video analytics actually captures the number plate of that car, and we can infringe on it. Now, I've actually touched a little bit on video analytics. I just want to cover off what that actually means. So video analytics is whereby the computer actually detects the event itself and flags it up to our control staff. So it's not that our control staff are monitoring the 2,700 cameras that we have throughout the Auckland region. It's actually the computer that flags up these anomalies. We build a scene and whereby if a car is parking there, we will detect that. Now, this was actually flagged to us as a safety issue. I didn't believe it when I first heard it, but the number of cars actually doing this every day, that's why we put a camera there. And we may have to look at how we actually support people getting access to the downtown ferry terminal when they're dropping people off. The next example I want to give is Whangaparoa. So Whangaparoa, I'll touch on that when I go through transport services, but Whangaparoa, we are using video analytics to detect 2 types of scenarios. One is around stationary vehicles in a transit lane, and the second, and particularly because of that road and how we're using it now, is around wrong way runners, if that makes sense. So if they're going in the wrong direction, an alert will be flagged up to our operators, and potentially they could stop traffic going down there until that incident is dealt with.
to watching you, John and Wayne.
Red light runners. So I do want to make a very important point that it's not Auckland Transport's responsibility to infringe red light runners, but we do have cameras that monitor intersections for the flowing of traffic, and we've recently rolled out video analytics to detect red light runners to see if we have got a problem here. And I've actually got 2 examples, and if I could ask the official to click the top one. So this is Oniwa Road. And as you can see, that traffic light's going red, so that person's just gone through. There's another 2 going through.
Crossing. Yeah.
And there's another one about to come. That's clearly a red light, and that's school children crossing the road to go to school. If you could click the bottom one as well, please.
Every single intersection, every day.
I hope that includes the bus drivers that go through the red light as the other day, who careered onto Te Aratu Road through basically oncoming traffic.
Includes everyone.
Any vehicle.
All vehicles.
It would be all vehicles, and there's another example of someone going through a red light. Clearly that vehicle just at the bottom left there.
Can I just on the red light runners, I know sometimes out of my community, sometimes the red lights will stay red for about 4 or 5 phases, and you've got other people going through and going through and going through, and everybody's thinking, what do I do, and it's all lining up at the back. So sometimes people, after about 5 minutes, they think, what do? I can't back up, I have to go through.
But that's
So that's just something that I think
that's
you
probably
need
the
to look at.
exception. That is the exception when there's a
It's
malfunction.
not always the exception. I see it quite often out our way. And another thing, if I can just say something about the red light runners, I can remember back in Manukau that they had a red light running thing, and what was going on, and I spoke to the person who was with Auckland, well, whoever it was called then, and with the phasing of the lights, they were phasing it really so quick that people were just going through, just as I was saying, and people were going through the orange and into the red, and they were phasing it so quickly that you were lucky to get one car through. And so I think we have to make sure whatever we're going to do with this red light running thing, and we're going to be, we need to make sure that the phasing of the lights are working correctly.
Yeah. So
Because otherwise people are going to be getting red light tickets when they've been waiting for 5 minutes, and I have seen it many, many times.
So Auckland Transport does use this data to understand if the phasing of the traffic lights, is there anything we can do to improve the safety of the phasing of the traffic lights? Is there anything we can do with the physical intersection that it's not optimal? The 2 examples I've given up here, they're clearly red light runners. At one intersection alone in Albert Street, during the month, 1 month, we had over 1,600 people going through a red light. So, again, Auckland Transport's not infringing people. Auckland Transport's trying to encourage safe road use and also decrease, obviously, death and serious injury. So that's a point to make there. We also use this technology for special lane enforcement. So there are currently 4 bus lanes whereby we infringe people if they travel along the bus lane, and we plan to do 6 in this coming financial year. And the final thing I want to cover off in safety, this is around school safety and children's safety, and it's something we did very, very quickly indeed. The school signs around schools at set 2 points in the day can decrease the speed limit around the school to 40 kilometres per hour. The old process was that the school had to manually turn these signs on and off, and being a busy environment, then they weren't always turned on and off. And we've just implemented a solution whereby it's a flick of a switch in our control centre, and it turns on the 800 school signs that we have throughout the region. I'm also pleased to say that Vic Roads in Melbourne are looking to leverage what we've done around school safety with this example. Let me move on to what we're doing in the customer experience space. So we have a number of digital channels that we use to communicate real-time data to our customers. The 3 channels I'm calling out there are the on-street passenger information displays, the PIDs, the AT mobile app, and also our website. All these channels are actively used. For example, on the website, we get over 50,000 unique inquiries per month for journey planning. All these channels now show consistent information between them, and feedback from our customers was at times of disruption. It was very difficult to plan journeys, public transport journeys. So we have incorporated real-time information, disruption information into our journey planner, and that now helps them plan their journeys. Let me move on to AT Mobile. So we've launched an AT Mobile app. It's hoped to help customers move through Auckland easier. It allows customers to plan their journey, track their bus, track their ferry as it comes towards them. Allows customers to personalise their journey, to see in real time where things are at, to get alerts and notifications which are relevant to their journeys. And also, very, very shortly indeed, they'll be able to see their current hot balance. Currently, there's over 130,000 active users of that solution. Very, very shortly indeed in November, so I'm moving to some stuff that we're moving on to. Very shortly indeed in November, we're moving on to an on-demand rideshare service in Devonport. This will be a high-quality, low-cost, on-demand, door-to-door ride-sharing service, linking customers from origin to destination. For many cities, and you might have heard this called as first and last leg, a real challenge for many cities is getting people to points on the transport network which are rapid and frequent. And this solution has been piloted in Devonport, but I could see this being rolled out elsewhere within the region. And moving on to how we manage our network. So we have developed a solution called Command Center. So currently, all real-time information goes into this solution. It also includes the occupancy of many of our buses and vehicles, trains and ferries. We're able to reliably know that because of the use of the hop cards. Just over 93% of our customers use the hop card when they use public transport. So we can actually make predictions if we do have disruption on what the best outcome for the city is for moving people. We also can bring into the solution historical information around what happened in the past. So examples for that is what happens when it rains in Auckland? What happens when there's school holidays? How does that impact the transport network and our public? We also use this solution to deal with customer queries. So internally, our call centre staff have the solution available to them. When customers call up asking about where buses are, what happened, did it run, we can actually do this in real time and also replay. And my final third area is transport services. So let me take you through how we manage the network. So monitoring congestion. So we actively use the cameras throughout the region and the solution to monitor congestions. Once a threshold is reached, so what you see up here on the right-hand side is a car parking when it shouldn't be. That's a piece of construction work. When it parks and it hits over a minute, it will be detected. And that will then go again into our control centre. And our staff can actually make active decisions around what to do here. Now, they could send someone out, they could do decisions if it was at an intersection where there was extending journey lengths and extended queue lengths, they could actually manually turn the signalling to green to address that. Recently on Oniwa Road, during the month of August, we've been using data to encourage behavioural change. So what we did do down Oniwa Road, which is if I could describe that road to you, it's 2.3 kilometres long. Going down it, there is a transit lane, which is a T3 lane, and also there's a normal lane, which is for other occupancy vehicles up to 2 lane. We actively showed the time differential between travelling down the T3 lane, either using carpooling with 3 people in it, or public transport. And we used a number of message signs, 3 in total, to show that comparison between the other lane. So a type example would be getting to the CBD by bus would take 12 minutes travelling in that lane, but using the other lane in a vehicle with only 2 people or less in it, it would take you 50 minutes. We were able to show that over a week, the average person would save an hour in time. That was actually supported by a campaign which explained this to the residents of that area. It explained, the options around using bus, carpooling, changing your time of your journey, because obviously we have that information in terms of if you travel earlier or later. I can actually share with you some results from that trial and feedback that we got from our customers who completed the survey. Over 50% of people noticed those signs being on Onewa Road, and 1 in 10 people said they made a change as a result of seeing those signs. So something very small can have an impact, and it has a beneficial impact to everyone, both for people travelling in public transport and also the people who do not see that as an option and use the other lane. Another item which we are actively working on right now is bus prioritisation. So what this is, down key corridors, we want to give buses priority when they are on schedule and when they are full. So we will give them priority at the intersection to go first to ensure transit times are consistent. So we're currently working on solutions how to do that. We certainly do not want to prioritise a bus that's running early or a bus that's just running back to depot, but we do want to prioritise buses where they are close to full and running to schedule. So that is work that we are looking to pilot this financial year. Touching upon dynamic laning, which is a new term which was born in February of this year. So we are using dynamic laning in Whangaproa. This is to optimise that area of the transport network. I'll give you a comparison. That we're using 3 lanes instead of using 4. This project was a few $1 million, as opposed to multi-million dollars, tens of millions of dollars, to actually make that road 4-lane road, 2 lanes in either direction. So that shows you how technology can be used to basically optimise what we have got. I'm sure everyone will know that we're looking to roll these dynamic lanes out elsewhere within the region as well. Another thing that we're working on, and I do have a video, so if your indulgence, Chair, I'd like to show that, is that more and more of our customers are now using transport for connected journeys. And what we mean by connected journeys is that they will use a ferry, then a bus then a train. It would be very, very frustrating if those connections didn't work. And obviously with any transport network, there is time pressures and there is also delays. So we are actively managing those connections via this solution called Things That Move. So our customers we could encourage a bus to wait for a connection or encourage a ferry to wait for a connection because it's the right thing to do. And we also look at the impact of holding a bus. An example I'd give here is Half Moon Bay. Because of bad weather, the ferry's late into Half Moon Bay. We're holding a bus, and we look at the impact on what the occupancy of that bus being held at future bus stops, and how do we then communicate that onwards. Our customers tell us that if we tell them about delay, they're fine with it. If they don't, it's that perception of delay that has a bigger impact on them. I'd like to present and run this video through for you. One thing that this solution has had recently is a paper has been presented in the World Conference on ITS at Copenhagen, and we've worked closely with Microsoft on this. I think this video is good in a few things. It shows, I think it demonstrates in what we're doing, the first several parts of my presentation of what we're doing around transport and how we're using ITS, and a little bit in the end is a plug for what Microsoft are doing with us. I actually think it's an excellent example that Microsoft have done this video to showcase not to Auckland or not to New Zealand, but to worldwide how they're supporting transport. So let me play this video. Oh. Could you hit the...
In the bottom there.
No sound.
Yep.
We'll get sound.
I've built it up now, so...
Auckland region is starting to grow up from being a village into a city. The mandate for Auckland Transport is to determine the strategy and deliver and operate transport throughout Auckland.
At Auckland Transport, our vision is to build a digital city through mobile applications, data, websites and other means of communication, how people get from one place to another, whether that's on our assets, that's buses, trains and ferries, or by other means.
Auckland's constrained geographically. It's a long, narrow piece of land with water all around it, so in parts of Auckland it's less than a kilometre wide. We can't just keep expanding. We have to integrate our modes, and digital allows us to do that. To optimise the network, we are moving away from manual, static planning, which was often inflexible and not able to reflect real-time events and changes on the network. This led to a lack of integration between our modes, resulting in customers missing their connections and having to rely on static, paper-based information to work out the best journey for them. This inevitably led to increased customer frustration. The Things That Move project has enabled us to truly integrate all the public transport modes to ensure customers are at the heart of how we operate our services. Customers can now plan, track and be notified of changes to their services in real time. Integrating our real-time data across all modes enables operators to notify of disruptions as they happen, alerting the day of operations team who actively monitor the network and are able to respond to the changes. Optimizing and adapting the network dynamically, we are now able to notify our customers of any changes to their service, resulting in a more seamless journey and happier customers.
So it's important to me that Auckland Transport is at the cutting edge, because not only am I an employee of Auckland Transport, but I'm a citizen and I'm a customer of Auckland Transport as well.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
We'll take some questions now, starting with Councillor Walker.
Yeah, just got a question, and it's pertinent to the hold-up yesterday on the North Shore, where the new network has gone in, and people have said to me that they had a delay, for example, one person 24 minutes in addition to their normal hour, which is very significant in terms of disruption. So my question is, does this technology that you have enable you to identify the time of an individual trip that an individual might be having, say from Whangaparāoa into the city and back?
Not by individuals, but by the bus itself. We can understand what the delay. I think you're referring to the issues we've had and continue to have around Constellation and bus station, where we have experienced some significant delay there for customers, and we're looking to address that. I think that the physics of that, or the physical environment there, is the problem. We're trying to turn around buses and the station is not big enough, but we do have people actively working on reducing that and resolving that. I do actually say the new network that went live yesterday in offshore, there is always going to be bedding in issues. The network that we've rolled out to south, to west and also to central, and we did have some bedding in issues, and we will work them through.
So just dealing with a specific question, so as it stands now, somebody from Whangaparāoa that previously was able to hop into one bus and go into town now has to change twice, so they now have 3 buses. And my question is, are we going to be able to measure the new journey times or times compared to the earlier journey times that people experienced, so we know whether it's working or not?
The actual physical answer to that is yes, we could do that. I would be loath to do it as an individual level because of privacy issues, but we could do it that historically a number of hop cars used to take this, and this is the travel time, and now via the connected network we could work out what an average would be.
Okay, and just my last question then is, given that councillors are in the loop because the buck is partly stopping with us, I just put to you that if councillors in various areas where these situations are being experienced need rapid feedback so that we know. So I just put that to you. So if we can be in your data loop, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Goff, please.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair, and I just want to follow through from Councillor Walker on Constellation Drive, which some people were calling Consternation Drive yesterday. Look, there's some really good news in what you're changing. A 44% increase in bus services on the North Shore, and a North Express service leaving the city centre every minute. That's phenomenally good, but that good work is undone when you see a picture of 15 buses queued up and people waiting longer at Constellation Drive than it takes them to do the bus trip itself. So I guess the reassurance that I'm looking for is that you'll be on top of this problem and quick. And really a question around, look, I know when you bring a new system and you're going to have teething problems, but given the increased intensity of bus services, was this something that perhaps could have been predicted and that you could have done more about beforehand?
So the answer to the first question is we are on that doubly quick to resolve that issue. We did plan and model the network. We clearly that modelling wasn't very effective or accurate for Constellation Drive. So the answer is yes, we could probably learn from this.
Yeah, but you're confident that in the next few days you'll be able to get on top of the problem, yes. I think, which is what we all want to hear.
Yes.
Thank you very much for that. And second and last question, red light runners, as you're aware, I've sort of made a big thing of this, having been hit by a person that goes through an intersection without stopping. What I guess I'm worried about, I think we're doing the right thing. We're making a really big investment in these cameras. And we know from the piloting that red light cameras do change behaviours and do reduce red light running and do reduce crashes caused by red light running. My worry is whether the police infringement system can keep up with the number of red light cameras we're planning. And I've written to the Minister about this, but I just need to know from Auckland Transport that before we start rolling out all of the cameras that we want to roll out, which will be a good thing if we can do it, that the police will have got their act together and will have got a system in place that will cope with the extra pressure that we'll be putting on it. Because there's no point in having a red light camera, people putting the lives of others at risk by running the red, being captured on film, and then no follow-up action because the infringement system is broken down. Are you confident and are you lobbying at your level, the police, to make sure that their system can cope and that we are doing this for good purpose?
Yes, we are. We are leveraging our relationship with police to make sure they are infringing where they should be. The example that I gave around the intersections, we can detect red light runners. And whilst we can't infringe, there was an idea internally is if we detected 1,600 people going through Albert Street in a red light, we could write to them and show them the image and suggest that they don't do it in the future. And whilst they may not be infringed, that's another thing that Auckland Transport could do, because as I gave out as an example, awareness is important as well, that we can detect you going through a red light.
Yeah. Can I just ask a follow-up question, Mr. Chair, to that? I presume, I see the cameras on the bus lanes. You go up Hobson Street, they're frequently there. Do we follow up on bus lane infringement ourselves, do we?
Yes, we do. We've got the...
Okay. Are there good reasons, and there may be, why if the police system couldn't cope, that we couldn't follow up and collect the revenue? Not that this is a revenue measure, it's a safety measure, but if the police aren't capable of doing it, is there a capability on the part of Auckland Transport to do it?
That's an opportunity in the future, yes, that we could do that. It would require some changes of legislation, and we'd have to make sure that the cameras we were rolling out were type approved for infringement, but that is something that we could do in the future.
Yeah, well, if the police couldn't deliver, that might be something that we need to look at. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Simpson, please.
Yes, thank you. Good to follow up, because that was one of my points. So what shocked me about what you showed us today was that the intelligent transport systems are there, but the intelligence of some of the people in Auckland is sadly lacking. So my question really is, if you've got consistent data to show that people are consistently doing the wrong thing, what are we doing about integrating a education campaign, a lobbying to central government to up the infringement notices for doing the wrong thing, or potentially doing something about it ourselves, rather than potentially taking everybody else who is doing the right thing and putting a standard of behaviour on them that protects people who are doing the wrong thing instead of being proactive in changing that behaviour. Because, you know, you're showing some particularly high levels of dare I say, stupidity. I mean, to walk across a railway line when a train's coming.
And drive across them.
And drive across it, I mean, the Auckland Transport guy who did that, I don't know, he is a very brave soul. So that's my question. I think this is it's got to be part of an integration. And what I'm concerned about, look, you know, I'm well known for being a little bit concerned that you want to drop all the city down to 30 Ks. You know, you're coming off the motorway at 100 K, potentially, down to 30 K, when actually we need to keep Auckland moving. So for me, it's about actually getting a better education system around crossing on marked crossings, don't run red light, you know, that's the safety campaign that we should be doing. So are we integrating all this together?
The answer is yes, but we're just capturing this data for the first time. So those cameras, there's only 4 locations where we're actually now detecting red light runners. We plan to do a further 20. We will follow up with campaigns and safety campaigns around what do we need to do there. The example around Glen Innes, we thought we had a problem. That's what people were telling us. We used the cameras to confirm that over a period of a day, 20 odd people crossed that line, and now we're looking to gate that line as a next safety aspect, because what's currently there is not preventing people going across when the train is approaching.
So how many more of these cameras have you got planned?
So we could build it's a capacity and also a cost thing. We could build these analytics on all the cameras that we have got throughout the region. We're targeting where we believe or we have problems, or where people are telling us are problems first. But we do city centres, railway lines, level crossings. That is where we're focusing the effort.
Right, and we will get that. You'll present that data back. I mean, what you're doing here is actually presenting what you've got and how it's sort of working, the good, bad, the ugly. But you're going to regularly have that reported.
I can come back to this committee or with.
I'd be very interested in that, because I think we need to have that evidence driven before we overreact potentially.
Yep, and that was all. So I just want to reiterate. When we had the presentation on road safety, that was reinforced that it is evidence-based outcomes.
But we haven't seen the evidence.
So that was there. It was conveyed by the chair of Auckland Transport and the chief executive. So look, can I just say in response to Councillor Walker, it's not 3 buses out of Whangaparoa, and because that's. When it's not the truth, it's actually 2 buses out of Whangaparoa. It's a transfer to the NX1, and it's every 15 minutes. And I really recommend people to download AT Mobile. And AT Mobile will actually confirm how you can move around the city.
And I suggest you talk to Auckland Transport?
No, I'm talking to you because you're quoting something which is inaccurate. It's a 2-bus journey to the city from Whangaparoa. It's every 15 minutes in the AM peak. And it's there, it's on the mobile app. So there's great technology here, and that's what this presentation's about, and it's confirming what's at our fingertips, and maybe we just don't know that it's at our fingertips. Just a question.
Can the general from Auckland Transport advise us about that?
Okay, have you got AT Mobile? The app on your...
need AT Mobile.
Obviously you do. If you go to the app and you download it, it'll tell you what the connections are. It's one connection to the NX1 and the NX2 as well. But Chris, just in terms of, can you just tell us about some clever things happening with AT Park, drive-by parking analytics, and Innovation Lab, which I only learned of yesterday when I was at working with one of the ambassadors in the early morning with the new network rollout. Can you just tell us about those 3 initiatives, which you haven't managed to cover here, but I understand you're time constrained?
Thank you. So we do have another app called AT Park, which is used for...
Fabulous.
Thank you. Which is used by customers who park on street. They park by the period they pay for the period they actually use. We have over 65,000 users of that app. The feedback is very, very good. The ratings in the iStore and the OS store is upwards of 4.2, and we gather revenue in excess of 600,000 per month from parking. And it's the customer experience is really good. No longer do they have to go to a machine; they can start their parking sessions in the car, and also get alerts if their meeting was overrunning, that they're about to run out of time. We're also looking at using license plate recognition to, how can I put this? Instead of having barriers as you go in and out of our car parks, your license plate will be read as soon as you enter, and it will be read as you exit, and you will be billed that way. So that is what we're doing with license plate recognition in terms of paid off-street parking. And finally, we do have it's not a lab, it's more of we call it Customer Central, where we test problems and hypotheses with our customers. We look at, that's actually where AT Mobile came out of. We Voice of Customer. We actually look at where we've got problems, the feedback from our customers, and then we try and come up with quick scenarios, quick proof of concepts that will meet those challenges, and then we actually invite customers in to test our thinking and to give us feedback. You're more than welcome to come down and see how we operate at Customer Central.
Fantastic. I think some of us might take that invitation up, because there's some interesting things happening down there. Question from Councillor Hills.
Yes, it's more comments. So do you want me to move it, or should I wait till questions?
You can move it. Yes.
Yeah. So I'll just
move Councillor Hills to have a second.
I will.
Councillor Simpson.
Thank you. And I think obviously we're asking lots of questions that maybe not directly in your
Actually, can I just take the questions at this stage, and we can reserve the comments because we do have quite a batting list for questions. Can we take the questions first?
Yep.
You have a question now? Okay, we'll come back. Councillor Watson, question?
Yeah, thanks. Just in terms of that monitoring, and good to see, trying to deal with the dangerous situation with the red lights. As far as Councillor Stewart's point goes, as to the lightings that are causing quite significant hold-ups, how are they only monitored if there's a camera there, or is there someone who goes around and actually looks at them? I think of Cook Street, for instance, big load of traffic coming from the shore, basically 4 cars getting around on a phase at peak time. So what is that? What is the nature of that monitoring? Does it include personnel?
So there's 2 types of monitoring that we do. One is on cameras. So yes, we don't have cameras at every intersection, and the camera's obviously more reliable. A lot of our intersections have induction loops and sensor technology actually in ground that can detect car movements and also can detect buses and heavy vehicles. It's called SCATs. What that looks to is try to optimise the sequencing of the lights.
Okay, and does that include actually just responding to people phoning in or through elected representatives saying, look, I'm sick and tired of this?
So if people do bring that to our attention, we would look at the data around those intersections.
Okay, my final question goes to the T2 and T3 lanes, and I think again going to the monitoring, the ability to change. So for instance, Albany Highway, we have a lot of complaints about Albany Highway, operation of T2 lane and all the traffic essentially being funneled into the one lane, not too many people using it. Does Auckland Transport have a willingness to adapt, to change? We all know that ultimately we want to encourage people to have more people in the car, but if it's not working, i.e. not many people are using it, or there are perverse consequences, does the organisation have a willingness and an ability to change at those T2 and T3 lanes for any X given amount of time?
So the good thing we're doing now is gathering data around the use of those lanes, the number of people going down them, the travel time, the benefit it gives us if you do use a transit lane. I suppose going to the evidence-based decision-making, if there was evidence suggest that wasn't optimal use of that road space, yes, the organisation would change.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper.
Thank you. Thanks very much. One of the questions I had was about that slide, the nice green one, managing disruption. Have we got anything to measure? Because I get a few complaints about this, is that the connecting bus, the timings aren't right. And so they'll get there and see the bus, the next bus hiving off, and they'll have to wait another half an hour. Do we measure that? Because that's one of the biggest complaints I get, especially since the change where it was one bus to go from there to there. They've got to change only about a kilometre down the road, but they're okay with that if the bus was actually there when they got there.
So that's exactly what that solution is trying to address. To
Okay,
give real
so
time.
how do we measure that where someone's running after the bus, even though the bus left on time and they got on the bus that was supposed to get there, but it's just the way they've ridiculously timetabled them to not meet. How are we addressing that? How do we know? Or do people just go onto the app and say, hey, I don't know? Because I know that people have talked to AT a lot about these things and said, look, I'll come and help you change the timetable so it works for me, and nothing happens. It's not your thing, but I'm just wondering if this can help that.
So the answer is yes. That's exactly the problem that solution is trying to resolve. It's all around the connected network. Over time, we will build up a picture of historical travel patterns. So if we know that a number of people use this connection, getting off one bus to the next, and that there's actually a delay in either of those services and the connection is not made, it will flag up to an operator, and then a conscious decision will be made. Either do we hold that bus because the connecting bus is late, or do we let it go because it's got a bigger impact elsewhere?
Sorry, so what I don't understand is, how does that technologically, you count that person who's getting off the bus and seeing the other one take away, and they just have to wait for half an hour? How do you count that?
So historically, over time, when the network is working and there's not any delay, we will have an average of those connections.
Yeah, I'm not saying a delay, I'm saying bad timetabling. Like that leaves it, I don't know, 12:25, and the other one bus comes at 12:26. You know, so if they just made that one at 12, whatever, a few minutes later, that would catch those people. That's what I'm trying to get to. Is that what we've had a review of some of the networks, is that what this is trying to fix, those anomalies with some of the...
Connections don't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll need to take that in.
Okay. The other quick question is just around bus lanes, because I just think that's what I don't understand sometimes with the bus lanes is we are supposed to get in and off, and how are we measuring that? Because we've got a ridiculous one coming off Hobson Street up over Wellesley where you're trying to get into Federal and you don't go in the bus lane, then everybody else comes down the side of you and then you can't turn and you've got to take off. And the same comes up Hobson Street. So I'm just wondering about, are we looking at how some of these, and I've got no problem with having a bus lane, but confusion for people when they want to turn left and have to kind of go into the bus lane to turn left, but you don't know if you shouldn't be doing it or not. And if you, it's just, that's what I think sometimes it's really obvious when people are blatantly driving in the bus lane, but sometimes at those intersections, and you've got cameras and you don't know whether you should be doing it or not, and I think that is, I know personally for me, a struggle. If I want to turn left and I don't know whether I should be in the lane or not, but I can't turn from the second one in, and so I think we need some messaging.
I hear your concern there. I think we might be straying a little bit
I know,
from
but I
the
just
paper
say we need,
that's being
okay, so if there's
presented here.
messaging and there's technological messaging or some way we can do it, that would be really useful.
I think I might just get Chris to just note a few things down here.
Oh. And the other thing, Mr. Chair, just quickly, our work phones that we get given will not take all the apps because they don't have enough room on them. So,
The other one.
yeah,
Okay.
I know, you have to use your own one, but even for travel, council travel, but
Councillor Fletcher?
we need better phones so we can have those apps.
Well, thank you. Can I just formally comment, and I know that...
Oh, sorry, can we, I did ask
It's
Councillor
questions?
Hills. Yeah, I did ask Councillor Hills to come back
It
for
is
comments.
coming to a question.
Okay, that's good. A question then.
Councillor Lee will support me in this. At the time of amalgamation, the Auckland Council wanted Auckland Transport to come into the IT system of Auckland Council. But for Roger Jones, there would have been millions and millions and millions of dollars wasted, and I think he is one of the real stars of amalgamation, so I'd like that passed on to him, Chris, please. But my question, and Roger has heard this from me before, and it's on the issue that Linda was talking about, just getting that integration, because my view is that the vast majority of people are law-abiding and well-intentioned, but bureaucracy forces them to do bad things at times. So are we, I'll give you one example and you can come back to me on it, that I've raised it on multiple occasions. That is Park Road, your bus lane that is there. If you come up Park Road, this Carlton Gore Road, and the light sequencing, because the right lane, most people are turning and going down to Remuera, there is only like a 15-second light phasing. So everybody then ducks into the bus lane. Now, I've watched that repeatedly over the last few years, and Auckland Transport has to actually, in my opinion, be responsible for ensuring that we don't see that kind of behaviour. The bus lane is critical. You're taking people up to Auckland Hospital. It's a well-utilised bus lane, but we mustn't have these other perverse incentives for people to break the rules. So if you could formally come back to me on that very specific intersection and what action is being taken, I'd be grateful. Thank you.
Could I come back? Could you follow up with an email to me to forward to Chris, just so that we get just get the story right and the locale right? Could you do that, or just email Chris directly? Thank you, Councillor Clow.
Thank you, Chris. Very good. Nowhere near as important because these are mostly safety issues. But to follow up with Councillor Watson, T2, T3 lanes. So you're investigating whether they're worthwhile. Is that one thing I heard, or not?
So what I said is there'll be evidence now for the first time where we've got cameras and we understand the throughput of those, and are they providing what we expect of them.
So when are we going to roll out cameras on most of them? Because there's certainly nothing more annoying to all those good people like myself that line up and wait, and then you see all these people zooming past, and there's no police there, there's no camera, and they just zoom past quite blatantly. So that's my first question. But the second one, just follow up, is that enforceable by us, therefore we can recover the money, whatever the fine is, which would pay for the cameras?
So the answer is that is enforceable by Auckland Transport. The fine currently is $150. We're actually looking at using technology to detect occupancy in vehicles. That is something that we've got.
That's what I'm expecting. The number plate would be red and you'd zap them, but...
Yeah, the problem is actually detecting people in the car.
Bus lanes are easy, T3.
Yes, so that we're actually working on it, especially if it's a T3 lane when there would be someone in the back, and other obstacles such as other things such as car seats and animals could actually detect. But what we're trying to do is use technology to detect that. Again, the system doesn't automatically infringe. It would go actually to an officer, and he or she would use their discretion, if it was deliberate and intentional, not trying to get from one lane to another, but also to confirm that there was less than 3 people or less than 2 people in that car. But we are actually looking at how we could infringe that better.
Because some people have car covers with faces on them. It's quite amazing that they go to that effort.
And mannequins, you have to take them out of it.
And mannequins, I have seen the odd mannequin.
Not a border collie sitting on the front seat.
Councillor Bartley, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I just wanted to know, because this is a pilot, right? No? Yes?
A lot of this stuff is pilots, lots of it is partly rolled out.
So is the financial implications, is that how much it's going to cost to cover the whole of Auckland, or is that just for the pilot?
It's for the region.
Oh yeah, cool, okay. And were there any job losses as a result of?
No.
And could there be any job losses once this system goes Auckland-wide?
No, what we're trying to do is use technology to be more effective and efficient. So do more with less. So be able to use the existing workforce that we've got to do more. So more bus lane infringements, more supporting safety.
Cool. All right. And then I just wanted to make it. Yeah, I know. I'll ask the question. So is that? Yeah, no, it's okay. No, never mind.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Wayne Walker, another question?
Yeah, I just have a question for Auckland Transport. The services that I was referring to for Whangaproa are the ones that terminate at Wellesley Street, and I was just wondering if you could confirm that that involves 3 buses, which coincidentally was the bus that Councillor Sayers took this morning, and that was the route that he took, and that involved 3 buses. So just like your confirmation on that, just to put the record straight.
I can't answer that question, but I can come back to you Councillor Walker with the specifics on that.
Councillor Sayers might be able to answer the question. Did you take 3 buses today, Greg?
Do you take three
Councillor.
buses?
Yeah, just to help you, Mr. Chair, you're quite right. There's 2 buses from Whangarei. I have to catch it today. If you go to Britomart, if you choose to go to Wellesley Street, there is a 3rd bus where you exchange from the NX1 to the NX2.
You could walk up here.
So you can get the NX2 to outside the council building?
Yes. Correct.
Good on you, Councillor Sayers.
But 3 buses.
I think Councillor Sayers has got AT Mobile and Councillor Walker doesn't have AT Mobile.
No.
Come
So
on,
Councillor
Chris.
Sayers confirmed that it was
That's
3
not
buses.
necessary.
3 buses to Wellesley Street.
Stay above it.
2 to Britomart.
3 buses to Wellesley Street.
Move on.
Let's move on and let's just have a look at the application. I don't think we need to score points here. I'm just saying use the app. Have a look at the app and see what's possible and how you can move around Auckland using that application.
It's on the app as well.
And okay, no further questions. And Councillor Hills, you wanted to say something? Just one comment from me though, and the Mayor has alluded to it. And a press release went out yesterday on this. It was raised by me when the road safety report came in, and I did send an email late last night questioning Auckland Transport again. It does need to be clarified, and we do need to get the police response because we have invested capital in red light cameras at, I think, Mayor, $120,000 each, and we install, we test, and then we hand them over to police for calibration and operation. They undertake the back office and they take the revenues. Our focus is road safety, and we expend that $120,000 a pop for cameras, and we're now up to 12 of them, and you can multiply that. But I understand that they are not, as the Mayor understands, they're not being enforced 100%, that they're on a rotational basis. We need to know what that means. If they are not operating at maximum 100% capacity, we need to know, because we have funded Auckland Transport to operate 12 cameras, not to operate some cameras.
Yeah.
And if that is understand that is unlikely to be a problem at Auckland Transport, it is likely to be a capability issue at police. We need to know that, otherwise all our press releases are appearing a little bit hollow, and that is not our intention.
Just point of order, Mr. Chair, just to clarify, I have written to the Minister of Police seeking assurance about this, because when we look at our road toll, and it's been increasing at treble the rate of anywhere else in the country, I think a lot of that in recent years has been that there has been less police enforcement, not more. And I've seen media comment that suggests that the police infringement system is not fit for purpose and needs to be rejigged. I've also copied that letter to the Chair and the CEO of Auckland Transport, because we need to put pressure on at all levels. If we are to actually reduce the deaths and the injuries on the road, we have to have a fit for purpose system. And currently, not at our end, but at the police end, it appears not to be fit for purpose, and that's got to change.
Absolutely. Thank you. Councillor Hills.
Oh yeah, thank you. Just a few comments. This is really gold for all of us, for research, and also, you know, the reason why we're putting things in place, but also to allow the system to cope or respond to changes. I think the red light stuff is crucial. I think it will end up pointing the police into places or intersections where we need red light cameras, because you can stand on any intersection around the city every day and watch hundreds and hundreds of cars run red lights while lots of pedestrians are crossing, and it's really, really dangerous. And at the moment, people know the rules and are breaking them, and it's causing massive injuries. The other thing is obviously it's great that we can start recording the bus lanes. Obviously, it's much easier to identify when a car's in a bus lane, and then more of the people can go to the T3 or transit lanes to look through people's windows to see how many people are in the car. The other one around the new network, I know that's not your division, obviously you've been doing a lot of work. Most of that was technology, so changing a bus service or situation in every single route overnight is a mammoth exercise, and there was no way to practice that, so that was all done through technology. So the feedback I've had is mostly it was all good and pretty amazing that most people were happy. The Constellation one for that 40 minutes is a real issue, which it looks like from feedback we're getting today that it's being addressed. But I just want to hand it to you and all your team for addressing a lot of those issues. And the apps, the fact that they were changed over, last week so you could look ahead and plan your journeys, I don't even know how you can do that all. So I think technology is the way forward, and especially in this area. I wish we could put more, and I know we are moving that way on pedestrians versus cars, but I think we need to be somehow measuring the movement of people more. So you say it's of buses, you say it's of cars, but I think if you look at the city centre and we're focusing on things like 30Ks versus 50Ks, but when you're talking about Queen Street and maybe 300 cars go through an intersection, at the same time 3,000 pedestrians go through an intersection, actually we need to be talking about the movement of people, not preventing a couple of cars from 40 seconds longer for their journey, when actually we're holding a lot more people back, economic activity and exercise and safety. So I think the more we use this technology and the more we have the data to point out that a T3 lane is taking 70 to 80% of the people down a road, and the other lane is only taking 30%. The more we have, the more we can actually continue to upgrade our whole transport system. So thank you. I think this is really good and important stuff. And the more we have to parcel up to show the public, I think would be really helpful too. Because as soon as people understand why we're doing things, they're actually much happier about changes going forward. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hills, and again, on behalf of all of us, Chris, thank you very much. We look forward to further updates in this intelligent transport systems approach. I think good investment on behalf of us, Auckland Transport, is making. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's moved and seconded. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Contrary, no. Declare that carried. Members, we'll adjourn for 5 to 7 minutes. Grab a short break.
I just did.
And we'll be back at, let's say, about 11:47. 11:50. 11:50. Don't be late.